We asked the federal government to create a stable Pride Festivals Support Fund, a modest, multi-year, and targeted investment of $3 million annually.
They lied again. You bet they did. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today, Carney's team lied about Mark Carney's, his wife's, his extended family's relationship with Epstein's associate. And we're bringing this up because Wab Kinew running his mouth about that again with Donald Trump. We've got the NDP leadership convention going on right now, which is about to complete. They're going buck wild with the Iran situation. They're likely going to be pulling support back from Carney. We got a bunch of stuff. Let's jump into this. This is an interesting one here from the food professor. Breaking: Manitoba to remove PST from all groceries. And well, yeah, it's expected now. Everyone thinks that Wab Kinew is going to be calling an election here soon because of this. Once you start rolling out the goodies to the public here, it's time for an election. I mean, David Eby bribed Canadians here with what was a $1,000 handout. He promised if they voted for him, then he took it away as soon as he won the election here in British Columbia. Moving ahead, we've got this one here. Nearly 2/3 of Canadian adults now hold post-secondary credential, far above the global average. Unfortunately, 2/3 of Canadians are not using those smarts to realize what's going on in our country. The high trust society here has become a huge liability. Turns out common sense, though, is not following this 2/3 rule. Moving ahead, we've got Stephen McKinnon here, being just as arrogant as Mark Carney. He's asked on the NDP's momentum. Check out this.
Will be a resurgence of the NDP as a resurgence of a threat from the left, given the momentum they have right now.
Momentum?
Little laugh from McKinnon. It's all a joke. I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening because Avi Lewis is going to win that. The left love that guy. Carney's moved too far to the right. He's going to pull some support back. Going to run this clip back in a few months and he's going to regret it. Yeah, I think he is. They might not get a ton of support back, but they're going to take some ridings for sure. Arrogant liberal, they never change. So we got this doozy of a clip here coming from the NDP leadership convention. Listen to Avi Lewis be about as far left as he could be.
But it is time for us to move beyond the boom and bust, destabilized cycle of fossil fuels, and everybody knows it. Just this week in the UK, they passed new rules that every new home build needs to have a heat pump and solar panels as a direct result to the oil shock that we are living right now. Countries around the world are moving to a safer, calmer, more secure, and more stable economy, which is one beyond oil and gas. No one ever bombed a factory full of sunlight, JP. No one's ever gone to war over the wind. We need to have a more secure and stable future, and everyone on Earth knows what that looks like. But it is time for...
This guy's lost his mind, but this is exactly what the Conservatives need to pull back some of the crazies from the Liberals to weaken Carney's power. And socialism has failed miserably everywhere it's been tried. So millions will starve and freeze, and we'll have the really useless wind and solar power and a debt that can never be paid. Insanity. True, but tornadoes never knocked over oil reserves, but you can destroy an entire field of collectors, creating unprecedented pollution. Yep, it's so easy to point out another example here like tornadoes and wind farms or solar panels. I mean, we've seen this in China where hailstorms absolutely obliterate these huge solar installations. And here we've got Wab Kinew bringing up Epstein again.
No American child from the blue collar or the middle class should have to die in Iran. Let the Epstein class fight the Epstein war.
This guy's going to call an election soon. Bringing up Epstein, pointing it at Trump. I mean, really, the most scathing stuff that came out of there was the stuff on Bill Clinton, without a doubt. But we do have this story here I haven't covered on the channel. An interesting turn of events here. Mark Carney's team wasn't honest with Canadians about his family's relationship with Epstein's inner circle, Ghislaine Maxwell. So I've shown this on the channel before. So Mark Carney's married to Diana Fox Carney. Her sister is Tanya Rotherwick, who was married to Robin Caesar III Rotherwick, who has this giant palace. And at this palace, they have these fairgrounds where they used to host parties. And that's where that Ghislaine Maxwell photo came from. There's all 3 or 4 photos of Mark Carney on the grass on his hands and knees with Ghislaine Maxwell. She's been arrested for S-word trafficking. Carney on his hands and knees. There's Maxwell there. You've got Diana Fox Carney, Carney's wife, with Ghislaine Maxwell. And you notice the age of them here. You can see Carney's hair, a little bit salt and pepper, but not nearly as gray as it is now. This is not 50 years ago, but this is maybe 10 years ago. And we know there's some sort of relationship because he's in Epstein's black book, which I have it all redacted here. There's numerous phone numbers, and we've got Diana listed here, home and work, with 2 phone numbers, and then another person here who I'm going to guess is Mark Carney. I don't know that for sure, but another person with home and work with numbers right above Diana. Who could that be? I don't know. And that's listed under Tanya and Robin Rotherwick in the Epstein files here. You can see it again right there. I have both versions, the redacted and unredacted versions. And I have tried to look up these phone numbers that are in the unredacted version, and it doesn't come up with anything anymore, obviously because they don't live over there anymore. Carney's sister-in-law, Tanya, used to be married to this guy. Now she's apparently with this guy, according to a tabloid source, Mark Evans, a pension fund guy that Carney used to work with at Goldman Sachs. But if we look back in time, this relationship here, when Carney was asked about this, he was heckled during his leadership race during the election. And this is what came out. So the Toronto Sun was able to get a hold of someone. It says Carney campaign pushes back on Maxwell photos, says they are not friends. And I'm going to prove to you that they are friends. So really, this is all we have is this quote here. It says this is another example of Pierre Poilievre and Jenny Byrne have always played politics, yada, yada, how they're terrified to fight Mark Carney. And then it says a close source to Carney told the Toronto Sun when asked about the photos and any association between the Carneys and Maxwell. As a child, the woman you referenced went to the same high school as Mr. Carney's wife's sister, as in Diana Fox Carney, her sister Tanya Rotherwick. While they have bumped into each other at public settings, including the 11-year-old photos you've sent, which is the ones I just showed you there, they're not friends. That's what a close source to Carney said. I don't know who this close source is, one of his campaign manager, another liberal, but a close source, that's what they said. They're not friends. Now you tell me if this looks like they're friends. Out of the Epstein files, we've got some new stuff here. We're starting at the bottom, and we'll look at these timelines. We've got 2004 with this one, which I believe is the newest one. There's different years here. We've got 2001. There's some more 2001s, 2001. There's one here, 2002. So we're seeing multiple years here. And I should note, roughly all these years, like 2004, Ghislaine Maxwell would have been 42 years old. She's not 16 or 17 in high school. 42 years old. You have emails like this going between GMax, which is Ghislaine Maxwell, and Christy Wilson on behalf of Lord Rotherwick. So this was getting sent to Lord Cesar Rotherwick, who was husband of Mark Carney's sister-in-law at the time, saying a very happy new one to you too. Lots of things going on here in London, all exciting and stressful stuff. We've got Happy New Year coming from Lord Rotherwick to Ghislaine Maxwell. We've got this one here, Ghislaine Maxwell to Lord Rotherwick saying, new Korean commercial, make sure you watch this till the end, needs speakers. And then it says, I can send you clean emails. There's some stuff redacted here. These are the email addresses. And then there's an attachment here. We've got this one here, which is very bizarre. It's coming from Lord Rotherwick to Ghislaine Maxwell. This is like a story or a joke. It's just talking about like father and son walking to the streets of lower Manhattan, approaching the site where the World Trade Center was. I don't really get it. But it basically just says, he mentions the Twin Towers, the son's not understanding, asks his father, what are the Twin Towers? The father smiles, looks up at his son, explains, the Twin Towers were two huge buildings that used to be here until 2001 when the Arabs destroyed them. The son looks up at his father and asks, what are the Arabs? So I guess it's a joke that the Arabs were destroyed or something. I don't know. But this is what they're sending back and forth to each other. We've got this one here also going from Lord Caesar to Ghislaine. It says, thought it was time for another email, and then sending a happy Halloween here. Here's another one, Happy New Year's. And further down here, we've got some more emails from Lord to Ghislaine. Tea passed on your rude Easter creature movie. Thought you might like Nutty. I doubt he's up to your normal muffin standard. Hope to see you soon. So this shows that they're meeting with each other. They send messages every holiday, it looks like. Easter, we had Halloween, we've got Christmas. We've got this one here, Lady Rotherwick, Mark Carney's sister-in-law, sending this to Ghislaine Maxwell. It's all redacted here, but it says, our darling little Tommy perished peacefully this evening. He has been much loved by all of his family during his 5 short weeks in this world. So it looks like she had a baby that perished, and she's sharing this with Ghislaine. I'm sorry, but you don't share that kind of private stuff with someone you're not really friends with. You're friends with like briefly within high school, and we're talking, she's 42 now. So when was this? Back 2003, she's 41 years old. At least, well, Ghislaine is, and roughly, they went to high school, they'd be roughly the same age. So she had a child perish when she's 40 or 41, 42, something like that, and then shared it with Ghislaine. Obviously, they're very close friends. And moving upwards, we've got Ghislaine sending this to Tanya Rotherwick, so Mark Carney's sister-in-law, and a very happy Christmas to you too. I love you, and I miss you, kisses. Does that sound like two people who aren't friends? Remember, the article said they're not friends. What kind of people say, I love you and I miss you, and share that you had a child that perished with someone who isn't a friend? Give me a break. These people are more than friends. There's a very strong connection there. Here's another one. A very happy Christmas to you too. I love you and I miss you. I don't know if this is the exact same email, but I mean, you get the idea here. Whoever on Carney's team released this lied about the relationship. They've been hiding this. They don't want to talk about it because there is a close relationship there. Meanwhile, you got guys like Wob Canoe blaming the war on Iran on Donald Trump because of the Epstein files. Like, get real. This is ridiculous. As I mentioned, most of the scathing stuff are like random people you wouldn't have expected that that had something to do with Epstein, especially the Bill Clinton stuff. So it's time to add this to the Carney lie tracker. His team lied. They have a very close relationship here, whatever this is, between his sister-in-law and Ghislaine Maxwell. And obviously they didn't want to say that. They didn't want to say, yeah, my sister-in-law has a very close relationship with that convicted criminal that was luring in women and bringing them to Epstein Island. So they're just going to say, no, they're not friends. That's a lie. Clearly, they're more than friends. And with that, we've got Wab Canoe here on CTV.
Are you concerned at all about statements like that impacting negotiations that are going on right now that have a huge impact?
Were we getting?
Do you feel like it should be said?
Were we getting a fair treatment from Donald Trump like prior to this moment? So let's just call it what it is. They started this war as a distraction from the Epstein files. There is no reason for this war. They want to talk about terrorism? Okay. Well, what about Saudi Arabia, the #1 exporter of terror in history? They want to talk about nuclear programs? Many other countries out there they could be going at. But they started this war as a distraction from a domestic political problem. And I don't think we as Canadians should be caught up in, the economic aftermath of that at the same time that we be asked to contribute to bailing them out of this issue. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I think that we should just call the situation as we see it and say, yeah, this is having a real impact on the cost of living in our country, and stop the war. Guess who else would benefit? Americans. American consumers would benefit from a lower cost of living as well, too.
Yeah, I think somebody needs to tell Wab Canoe here that a former Ontario MPP has just had a bounty of $250,000 put on her head. We're not exactly in a safe country anymore because there's so many Iranian agents in our country. This idiot has no clue what he's talking about, so tell him to, yeah, disgusting, Canoe. You are a fool. Apparently you have no critical thinking skills whatsoever. Now, there are people making a ton of money off this war. There was somebody who put in a huge purchase of oil stocks just before 15 minutes before Trump made his announcement, and they've made something like $580 million. Is there some insider trading going on? Who knows? But regardless, what's been happening in Iran, 47 years of the people being oppressed, they're exporting their terror lords around the world, including many of them in our country. We see these people coming in through the airports because the liberals have made this a safe haven. And Wab Canoe's just like, oh, let's just brush that under the rug. That's not happening at all. In regards to the Epstein files, there's really nothing all that scathing in there about Donald Trump. Really, there's one piece of paper in there that shows that Donald Trump warned the FBI about Epstein, and actually Ghislaine Maxwell told them to investigate her, and that's what tipped off the whole thing that exposed Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I'm not saying Donald Trump is super squeaky clean or super innocent, or he didn't sleep around with some people on the island or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there. I just know from what I've seen there, Donald Trump tipped them off. There isn't photos of Donald Trump in hot tubs with underage people on Epstein Island like there is with Bill Clinton. So really, the release of the Epstein files was much worse for the Democrats than it was Republicans. Moving ahead, we've got Doug Ford running his mouth once again, blaming everything on Donald Trump.
We always focus on environmental issues and we're going to be working with First Nations community. We take all that into consideration, but we can't just sit back. We have to start moving. We're under attack by President Trump on a daily basis. Our businesses are under attack, our communities, and the people are under attack.
Everything is under attack in Canada from Mark Carney and the Liberals. If he wanted to be honest, he should say that. And sure, Donald Trump's tariffs do not help certain sectors like the forestry, steel, aluminum, autos, etc. But our country's been under attack now for years.
So we need to do everything we can to focus on expansion, creating more jobs, 23,000 construction jobs, and tens of thousands of other jobs, no matter if it comes from tourism or people just flying in.
We have to stop the bleeding. I mean, the amount of auto jobs alone, you see the forestry sector around where I live just all shutting down. This needs a massive U-turn right now. Of course, the Liberals don't care. Carney doesn't care. It's all about his net zero agenda. Unless you can get a job in net zero, like Pathways Project or something like that, good luck. Moving ahead, we've got a story lacking common sense with the representatives of Canada's largest pride festivals demand increased funding from the Carney Liberals, asserting the current taxpayer funding is insufficient. Forget about those Canadians that are starving. More pride funding. They call for a modest sum of $9 million for their festivals over 3 years. No thanks. Don't need any more old men with leather straps and barbarian Speedos prancing around the streets. No thank you.
The Carney government has taken an important first step with security funding in Budget 2025. This funding is very welcome, but it's insufficient to meet our rising costs. We ask the federal government to create a stable Pride Festivals Support Fund, a modest, multi-year, and targeted investment of $3 million annually over 3 years for a total of $9 million.
They can't be serious. So these guys can prance around downtown Toronto with their dingleberries dragging on the ground. Why are taxpayers paying anything? Yeah, we shouldn't pay a dime for this. They want to do it, then raise some money. Even then, they shouldn't be allowed to have these guys dragging their dingleberries down Yonge Street. But we have no money for vets. This is insane. Yeah, they care more about funding this than helping our vets. These festivals should be funded by private donations only. They should go out fundraising and earn their pride. If you have to beg, how can you be proud of it? Oof.